Does anyone know where I could find a domesticated chupacabra breeder? I'm looking to adopt. Hey, Chimi listeners, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and today we'll be bringing you the good word of the one true blue savior himself, Superman. And joining me today on this adventure is Haley with the news.
Hi.
And Nathan Gonzales in the flesh? Question mark? How you doing, man? Haven't seen you in forever.
I'm good. I'm in the flesh. My flesh is here, and I'm within it, and I feel good.
The creative brain behind half the creative brains I know. I remember most recently hanging out with you recently, I was like, 2 years ago, in LA, going and viewing your play.
Yeah, that was like two
play?
years ago.
This guy just goes off and creates wonderful art.
That's
things.
fantastic.
I like to think of myself, and not in a braggy way, but like as a jack of all trades. It's just anything that I can apply I guess as like that creative, maybe like too stimulated, pressured child to like latch onto something creatively. I just tried to like be good at anything I could, and whatever I didn't, I just gave up, and anything I could stick with, I did. So things like graphic design and like sometimes music and just anything creative I like to pursue, and whether or not it becomes like a professional endeavor or just for fun, I don't care. I just like doing creative things and things that
I genuinely admire that deeply.
I guess I would call myself like a jack of all creative trades.
That's fantastic.
Do you have any interest in saying what you do so people can look you up
Oh,
and give you
well,
work?
right now
Let's pitch you, man.
I am a podcast producer and a graphic designer for Kevin Smith and Smodco Enterprises or Incorporated. So yes, that Kevin Smith.
You're basically just a get it, man. Make the pretty things, make the funny things.
Yeah, I'm a liaison essentially between Kevin, who likes to work from home in Hollywood, and his people who are either working from their offices or wherever abouts in the world. And so whenever Kevin wants something, arranged or planned, I'm one of the people that he goes to make that happen.
So you're kind of like Kevin's bitch a little bit.
A little bit. I like to think I'm his youthful ward. I like to call it.
I'm sure you could still fit bitch in there at some point in that bitch youthful ward,
I
youthful
think that's
bitch
the promotion
ward,
I'm
youthful
waiting
ward
for
bitch.
is to bitch status.
Okay.
I don't have a company email yet, so that's probably the bitch status plus.
So you will achieve bitchhood that comes with a company car and a new email. Okay, cool. All right.
Because it's Hollywood, and you got to be a bitch to survive.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and so we also has this podcast, Smodcast, which we're gearing to become more of like a regular thing for him and become like a synonymous kind of name interview show for him, where it's like Kevin Smith featuring this week an interesting name. So like we had Anna Faris come in a couple weeks ago, and that was really interesting. So I help schedule and orchestrate guests, invite them over, meet them at the house, and then take them up to his office, and then they do the thing, record, take a pic, and then I expedite files back to the editors.
So you're not just a bitch. You really are kind of a major aspect of the heart of the show.
I'm a cog in the machine.
That is so cool.
And I'm happy to be it, because it's a very fluid and very happily run machine.
Well, as a appreciation to your fine growth and fun career, which is the exact same thing almost every single one of us who've known you for a while expected of you, is that someone would notice you and just snag you up and you just be doing everything for them. It just turns out
it took 5 years of being in Kevin's kind of orbit, like just constantly being like at his shows that are out in like Hollywood or LA, and or like tapings of like pilots he tried to get done, or any sort of like event or Q&A that he had locally. I would show up and then, try and be honestly like that guy who shows up backstage and says like, hey, I just wanted to say hi or get a pic with you or something. But, to save like the long, really like detailed story of like my history with Kevin Smith, the first time I met him in 2013 was this like really kind of, the thing with Kevin Smith is like, he makes you really feel good to be a fan of his. Like, he's very genial, he's very generous with his time, and like he'll just really thank you or make you know that he appreciates that like you like his stuff. So he'll take the time to like really have a conversation with you, or he'll remember you if he sees you again. And like, even if he doesn't quite remember your name, he'll still like, remember something about you that has that sort of connective tissue that he's not going to be like, who's this?
Yeah,
stranger?
I've heard nothing but
What a
pure
great guy.
things, and he's just a genuine person.
He really is. He really is. And so over like the course of like 5 years showing up at shows, and I would say hi to him and stuff.
Did you kind of also troll him and online really aggressively too sometimes?
He is also very like accessible on Twitter.
Okay.
So sometimes like you can access him to, like, or show him something on Twitter that he'll like or he'll share or something like that. So it took a couple of years, I think, on my own to develop a sort of like graphic design muscle and a style. And then that got me to a place where I was making work that Kevin actually did notice and then said like, hey, can you make more of that for me? As an asset is what in the industry is called an asset. And so basically any kind of like promo material for a public appearance or a show, a podcast that he's doing, he'll need some sort of artwork to promote that. He'll share it on Twitter, Instagram, what have you. So he'll go to me and make that. I'll make stuff like on Instagram story versions.
Some of the pretty stuff.
Yeah, basically all the like, just promo ads that like if you follow celebrities, and sometimes they'll like promote their events or they'll promote their shit, sometimes they'll have graphics that, maybe they're just a celebrity, they're just like an actor, or they're just a writer, and they're not necessarily a graphic designer, so they need somebody else to do that. And that's my job essentially, is I'll come in and make that extra little graphic design, make that person look.
You're attaching the overall, I guess, persona of all the pages, keeping them all.
I'm just basically it's like if Kevin Smith is a mosaic of many people, I'm a part of that mosaic, and I'm happy to be a part of that mosaic, because working for him is very rewarding. And I feel like ever since he's asked me to make like essentially art for him, I felt like my art has done nothing but got better. And just having like a supportive boss who not only like, I mean, it's one thing to have like your hero ask you to make stuff for him that he respects and like admires. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, I really admire your stuff, but you want me to make stuff for you and basically make you look better. I'm happy to do that. Yeah. So
that's almost every fan's dream.
Yeah.
Anyone who's creative in the same industry, in the same field of their hero, that's the dream. That's the goal, is to not necessarily rise to become the next them, but to walk at least in their direction, be compared to in some form, or to work with alongside.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm not looking for this to be a stepping stone. I'm not looking to make the lateral move or the next like. I'm not looking really to break into Hollywood at this point. I was just very lucky and very happy to break into Kevin Smith's Hollywood.
There you go.
That's the window I could squeeze through. I'm happy to do that.
You're happier with your community as opposed to that being the goal in Hollywood itself.
Yeah, I mean, I could. You want to talk about Hollywood being a bitch? Like, I can imagine far worse people or far worse like industry zones to work in that are far more stressful. And like, I've had my own anxieties about work so far, but I'm sure it's compared to other people's jobs, even in that industry or without the industry, it's a first world problem.
Yep.
But just like, it's a very intense industry, and it's a very demanding industry, and it's a very quick moving industry. So when people want things, you got to make sure it's happening right away, and it's like getting done.
Well, you tend to roll in and out of my life like once in a blue twilight moon. So I'm looking forward to seeing like what's going to happen next. I mean, I assume, and I'm sorry for this, Mr. Smith, but I assume by next time I see you, you're only going to be wearing Kevin's hide.
Yeah.
And have become him.
Yeah. I'm going to be wearing his skin.
Sleeping in the bed with his wife, taking over his home.
I mean, he did lose a lot of weight, so I'm sure there's a lot of skin to like squeeze
into. Bare skin to.
You can sell flesh dolls, fleshlights.
Oh, yes. It's custom leather handles.
Oh, that's some fucking body horror shit. That's not my cup of tea.
No? Okay. Well, I was at least thinking like a world championship belt made out of Kevin Smith.
Ooh. A hockey jersey, a skin
hockey. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now you're thinking. Haley, you look like you're already thoroughly through your wine and with a big old grin, so I'm guessing you want to read us some news. I'm going to pop my cherry here first. Pop. What are we drinking here? What's this called? I have a bottle in my hand. This is Plenty for All, which for those of you who are already aware of what the topic tonight is, it's funny.
Not associated with the brand Good and Plenty.
No, not in the slightest. It's plenty of it, and it's good.
It's good enough. It's Plenty for All. It's a Pilsner, correct?
It's a Pilsner. You got to get that Pils fix.
I'm so glad we have our
You gonna
pop
kill for the
filters
pills?
so we can say
Pilsner.
without
Pup-
consequences.
It's so
Pilsner.
poppy.
without repercussions.
All right, Haley, give us the news. What you
All
got,
right,
baby?
you gentlemen, you ready for the news?
Give it to me, baby.
As I'll ever be.
I don't know if you guys know, but Congress actually recently blocked the national emergency order to build the wall, which is kind of exciting.
Woo!
Because the Republican-controlled Senate approved the block, which is huge. So go us. So Trump vowed to veto this because it did not pass the 2/3 vote that it needs to bypass the president vote.
So he does know how the checks and balances system works.
He's simply choosing against following
He's
them.
just,
Yeah, he
how
does.
it suits himself.
As a
Okay.
13-year-old would.
Okay.
So this will actually be the first veto confrontation of this presidency, which is kind of exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Which is, I guess, surprising because it's like, yeah, really? He hasn't done anything to veto?
Hearing that out loud is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah. You're at this point, nothing is really shocking, but then I guess there is a little bit left.
Yeah.
A little bit.
This is kind of wild because never had we ever had a president who was asked for funding and then have it denied and then invoke a national emergency to spend the money anyway.
Right, because again, he's not a politician and he thinks he's negotiating. He thinks he's
It's the art
pulling
of the
a
deal.
Mr. Business.
Nate, it's the art of the deal.
What do you think Trump's Order 66 is?
It's a large Big Mac with fries.
Okay. So, what does Palpatine say? What's the quote?
Execute Order 66.
And then just here's Grubhub with him go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank
he
you.
needs all those hamburgers.
Hamburgers, yes.
For a reason.
Jesus.
According to Senator Lamar Alexander, who's a Republican in Tennessee, he says this declaration is a dangerous precedent.
Ooh.
This is a dangerous president.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually the second resolution that has rebuked the Trump administration, with senators approving a resolution to end the U.S. support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen.
Ew.
These rebukes dawn a new era for the government in Washington,
Rebukes.
with Democrats taking a more confrontational approach to Trump while now controlling the House.
Well.
We got the house.
Yep.
We got the house.
So we're working on it. And that's...
I say we like I'm a part of this. I'm really not.
Yeah, same. I kind of sit here with the whole mentality of, you know what? They're all just going to bitch at each other till we get rid of all of them anyways.
I had an idea for a bumper sticker on the way here. Just nobody for president. Let's just take turns.
It's like the Oscars where like you couldn't decide on anybody, so you just had
How about we
none
just
of
let
them.
everybody who wants to be president like have a 2-week term?
I'll take that. I'll take that so
like,
hard.
Hey, Beto, what are you going to do this week?
I can't wait till Florida Man wins.
An international news. Okay, wait.
Perfect. Nailed it. Keep going. Use that one. We're using that one.
Oh shit. Okay. UK Parliament votes to postpone the Brexit. So 3 years after Britain voted to leave the European Union, Parliament asked for an extension to June 30th.
Uh-oh.
So it turns out it's actually not about second thoughts. It's about they don't have they're like, fuck you. We don't want to do this anymore. And then they're like, oh shit, how will we pull this off?
Oh, it's very poorly planned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
So basically, if the EU does not approve, the Brexit begins on March 29th. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, is going to bring forth a third withdrawal deal to Parliament on the 20th, so next Wednesday. This is the third one. It failed because, as Nate very poignantly pointed out, they don't have a plan.
They don't.
And if it fails a third time, she's going to ask for another extension that'll be even longer than the June 30th. But that also may not be approved.
Now, isn't it also a very real possibility that Theresa May might not be around for that much longer either?
That's a very real possibility, yes.
So it's like she might not even see this thing to the end.
Maybe not.
It might throw her out first.
That is also
it's
possible.
entirely possible that this is just a short-lived pipe
Why
dream.
can't we move that efficiently?
Because we're the United States of freaking America.
Yeah. Why did we leave them? They had all their shit together.
Apparently not.
I guess not, yeah.
Eventually, we'll just have found the right president. If we go every 2 weeks, the right one will be in for those 2 weeks. Like, no, don't get rid of that one. We're keep
Yeah,
this
it's like that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt went for like 20 years until we stopped him.
Yeah.
He was like, I got polio, I got to take a break.
Well, I guess I need to take care
So
of
did
my
we
health
stop
now.
him, or did the polio?
I think we gave him the polio because we had to stop him. He was becoming too powerful.
They gave him a polio blanket.
I was just about to say that.
As Nathan
I mean,
is
that's
holding
poetic
his
justice.
face.
That's
It is.
if I've ever heard one.
I mean, it's fair.
Yeah.
And that's your international news.
Oh my God, the world is weird and European. No, not for long apparently.
In more local news, you'll find this interesting, Christian. Not actually in the IE. This is just in California.
Ew. I mean, yay.
Local enough.
Local. It's Fresno County.
Okay, ish.
Fun fact, that's where my husband is from.
Oh, okay. I was about to make a very crude, not crude, but like disparaging joke towards the area of Fresno. So
Oh!
I mean, he
What was
got
it?
out, so.
Oh, I was just going to say,
He's
like, is
free
this
now.
involving a meth junkie of some sort?
No,
Typically.
it involves $27,000 worth of goats.
Goats, you
Okay. What? No, moving on.
Goats, you say.
I'm not cool with this.
That's right. You have a goat thing.
What's the What's the story? Read it
What's
fast.
the goat?
So $27,000 worth of goats have gone missing in Fresno County.
Good.
There's been a recent spike in
Where
goat
did they
theft
go?
since January.
Mm-hmm. And they have no leads.
Oh, they have some.
Okay.
They know at least
Come on,
one,
the Fresno Police Department. You're
one
not giving them
person
enough
or
credit.
one
They have
crew is
leads.
definitely behind this, is what the Fresno Police Department says.
A well-paid crew.
One person or one crew is definitely behind this, if not more.
I'm putting together a
That's
crew.
what it says. 11 goats were stolen last Thursday, and more than 60 goats have vanished from farms in the county in the last 2 months.
I feel like this is a method actor practicing for a role. Like, all right, I need to plot the big heist.
That, or there's just some Cruella de Vil character who just needs so much goat fur.
Goodbye, goats.
Wow.
So actually at the beginning of this month is when law enforcement became involved.
Oh.
Because they were like, nah, it's fine.
That's not our jurisdiction. Goats go missing all the time.
Literally,
Scores
that's
of goats.
exactly what has happened.
Wow.
And then they're like, oh, wait, 60 goats have gone missing since January? We should probably get involved.
Now, have they hired animal control to try to find the chupacabra?
No. Mostly females have been stolen, and females, that makes sense because females are sought after for milk and meat.
Milk and meat.
However, 4 of the 11 goats that were stolen last Thursday have been found wandering down a road, and authorities are hopeful that the others will be recovered.
Do you think in those cases it was like they stole the goat, found out it was a male, and then like left it there
Maybe.
like halfway down the road?
I hope all the goats that don't get discovered were just like brutally slaughtered. I hope that it was slow.
Why?
I am
going
so sorry.
on
I
with-
completely forgot that you had a goat thing.
I don't have a goat thing. There's no goat thing.
Clearly, you.
He is beet red, ladies and gentlemen,
This
and
is not entirely untrue.
he is twitching.
I am not. I am twitching, but I'm twitching out of choice. This is a by volition.
This nervous tick is on purpose, I'll have you know.
Yes, I am. This is called charisma. Thank you very much.
Robert Downey Jr. can't match this level.
Nope.
Well, okay, I'm going to let you know that we're done with the goats. That goat story is over.
Goats are
That's
gone.
your local news, ladies and gentlemen.
Moving on.
This one is actually, I find really interesting. Have you guys heard about the Empire actor Jesse Smollett?
Mhm.
Yeah, have I
Yeah.
heard? Come on now. I live under a rock.
So
An empire-sized rock.
he actually just recently pled not guilty.
Oh,
to the
so he's
charges
continuing to
Oh,
lie.
God.
that he faked the attack against himself.
Brilliant.
So he pled not guilty to 16 felony counts of disorderly conduct. He is maintaining his innocence during allegations that he faked a possible hate crime against himself earlier this year. For people who do not know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Spoiler alert.
Chicago PD arrested Smollett on suspicion that it was a stunt to promote his career. Chicago PD stated at a news conference last month that he paid his would-be attackers to carry out the crime. Both men implicated Smollett while under interrogation, and authorities have the check that Smollett wrote them in payment to prove it.
Gross.
Yeah. It
So
doesn't look good.
it does not. No,
Not
thank
for
you.
him. No.
And that's your
That's
entertainment
disappointing.
news.
That's very disappointing, but honestly, what a load of crock shit.
Yeah, this is where we are.
He's no goat.
He's going to have an empire of
He's no goat.
spooge in his butt.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he and R. Kelly are at the same jail.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, no. Who's getting peed on then? Kelly's the peer, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, unless there's acid in R. Kelly's pee, I don't
Hey,
think.
man, he's out here fighting for his motherfucking life.
Is he?
Hey, Gail.
I mean,
Good for you, Gail King. You rock.
yeah.
You are so much more than Oprah's friend.
Oh, God.
So much more.
So much more,
Gail
Gail.
King is a queen.
CBS This Morning with Gail King.
CBS This Morning with Oprah's friend. It has
She
a
had
good
to-
ring to it.
With
Gail King.
Oprah's
Gail
friend.
King not only had to work with Charlie Rose, but she also had to work with Matt Lauer. So
Oh,
go
Jesus.
for you, Gail
Oh,
King.
Yeah, no,
bless
that
Gail
must have been a
King.
nightmare.
Good for you. Gail.
She is a
You go.
precious baby angel.
You got anything else for us, Haley?
I do. I thought we would end on a fun note. Also, some more local news, but good things.
Fluffy stuff.
Off
This
the farm.
is my yeah. So SoCal actually has been saturated with butterflies
Oh, yeah, I heard.
due to the super bloom and the painted lady migration.
Painted ladies.
Yeah, so that's what the butterflies are called, painted
Yeah.
ladies.
Okay. Yeah, they move so fast I can't really see what kind they are. They go like I was watching them yesterday, just kind of like almost like they were forming out of nowhere, like being spawned in a video game on a loop. Just like this ambient wave of butterflies coming out of nowhere, going on like one jet stream of path. It was so beautiful, but yet I was wondering, like, am I seeing things? Am I
No, yeah.
having a stroke? But then I went online and no, there are butterflies everywhere. In LA.
Actually, this is the largest painted lady migration since 2005 with an estimated billions of butterflies.
Now, are they just like
Billions.
leaving to go hang out somewhere that doesn't have so much rain? Are they horny and looking to go bang?
No, they migrate most often during the super blooms.
Oh.
So we got the goods and they're here to take it.
Come on down and sniff my goods.
Painted ladies actually migrate to West Texas and northern Mexico during the winter as caterpillars.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they're butterflies, they begin traveling north.
Well, have you driven
So-
down the 15
Yep.
lately?
No, actually, I've avoided it because of this.
Down by the like Temecula area, yeah, the wildflowers are just beautiful.
Right when you're passing through Elsinore, it gets completely crowded on the freeway, though. You can't get through there at all now.
Yeah, it's all traffic.
Yep, that's why I just fly everywhere nowadays.
It's all traffic.
And that's the news.
Oh my god! Do-do-do-do-do-do. The noise that happens here now. Clearly super sober.
Oh, man.
Super. Hi, Haley. All right, so I am a longtime huge Superman fan.
As am I.
Growing up without much stable religion, you know, I had a pagan grandmother, I had a Catholic grandfather, I had a whoever he was married to, he's in their religion father. So to me, comic books were essentially my moral upbringing, I guess is a better way to put it. And Superman, as you know, in the comics, we all know who he is, we all know what he's about. He's the moral, peak of it. So I always view him as, I guess, the superhero Jesus.
That's fantastic.
Yep. So I've always compared biblically, as many writers have in the past as well. But I took that way too hard as a kid.
Yeah.
And it's if I'm gonna do anything, it's what would Superman do or what would Clark
if
do?
you're given a choice, if you're a child, Jesus or Superman, one's got laser vision, the other guy don't.
The other one gives you a lot of fish.
See, I grew up in the middle of that because, I grew up in a very, Christian conservative home, and Superman was kind of, the only approved superhero that I was allowed to kind of partake in.
He's pretty safe, I guess.
And so, for me, I was a small child when, Lois and Clark was on TV, so, Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher and all of that.
Dean. I
My
remember
brother
Dean.
growing up is 3 years older than me, and he was insanely strong. So, from the ages of 3 to probably 5, I actually thought my brother was Superman because he had the dark hair, blue eyes, and he could get things over his head that he probably shouldn't.
As children tend to easily get
irrational thoughts. And so Superman very much became a part of my identity. And when I was 6 and 7, I don't know why or how, but became part of my sexual awakening. So,
your sexual awakening with Superman. I am so happy we tangented here.
oh man,
Destroy me, Haley. Show me on the doll where he touched you.
everywhere. No,
Mind you, she's talking about, how old were you in this situation?
oh man. So when I was 6 years old,
You completely ruined everything,
Yeah,
Nathan.
When I
No,
was 6, I had like my first sex dream, and it was like Superman flew in this window. I was like in this attic, and he like flew in the window and like ravaged me. And like, I know that's
Like,
dumb because I was 6, but like, it was a dream. Obviously, like no one touched me, and like,
we've all had those thoughts.
What? We have?
Where an adult man flies into your room.
Oh, those thoughts, yes.
No matter what age you are, and just ravages you.
I mean, at the time, like being 6, I did not know what ravaging was, so it was mostly just like lots of hugs
Just
and we
tickling
cuddled
me.
in bed.
I'm assuming these are images from like the movies. like,
Yeah, because
I'm-
I grew up in the Superman films,
Yeah.
both 1 and 2.
right, and those were
like,
very tame.
ever since I have had this,
Affection.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he is the epitome of the ideal man to
Okay.
me.
So I got to take your husband to the gym a few times a week and see if I get nice and like Superman
Are
ripped.
you kidding me? He throws me around like I'm a piece of lettuce.
Like a piece of lettuce. Crisp romaine lettuce.
I like green leaf lettuce for like sandwiches, but like romaine lettuce for salads.
I like romaine because it's so robust. I could use it for a bigger variety of salad options.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
hmm
It's the duct tape of lettuce.
That's fantastic.
I like a
yeah.
little salad with my croutons.
I like a little
Do you?
salad
Are you
with
a crouton man yourself?
Kryptonian.
I wish I could have my own show called Nate's Crouton Corner where I just review croutons. Eat them straight out the bag.
You know, I will produce this podcast for you. I will let you just crunch.
And there's one probably clear winner of the Olive Garden brand.
Oh my
They
gosh,
brand
Olive
themselves
Garden
around.
salads themselves.
Oh, they
are
know that they're
fantastic.
bomb. That's why it's all you can eat.
Now, wait.
That's
describe
what's up.
describe these croutons. What makes Olive Garden's croutons so good? I've never had. I've been to Olive Garden once, and I had really crappy penne pasta.
You know what I like about them
Yeah, go on.
is that they are crispy,
Yes.
but they are not hard to crunch through.
No.
So they're brittle, and I appreciate that because I feel like in a crouton, you either have they're like soft and they're easy to bite through, or they're really crunchy but they're dense and they like take some teeth out.
I think
along-
there's two
along the way.
croutoning, if that's a verb, processes. You have your two types of croutons, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You have your basically broken up, dried, day-old bread. So it's just
yeah,
like
understand.
basically
yeah.
a bag full of pieces of broken bread. Or
which are sad.
in the or not in the case of like the Texas Toast brand croutons, which I know so very well.
Okay, that's true.
They're quite delicious. The garlic butter.
You, like
garlic
just a
butter.
pick them out the bag snack kind of
The
thing.
ranch ones are very good. Yeah,
Mm.
actually, I'll eat them straight out the pack. They're a great, delicious snack.
Really, I have never heard of anyone who was ever just. I'm such a snack fiend, but my snack of choice is popcorn.
But the Olive Garden croutons are the different kind. I think they're mass-produced squares of bread that are baked twice to their
Ooh, twice baked.
crispy perfection.
That must be why they are so brittle, I guess is the word that we're using.
Yeah, they crumble apart in your mouth, and if you get
Mm.
them soaked with some olive oil, some vinaigrette,
Ooh,
A little balsamic.
a little balsamic.
Yum, yum.
that's what's up.
So back
What
to
is your
Superman.
nationality?
I'm
Nate?
half Mexican, half Irish.
Okay, I'm Irish Italian, so I feel you on the balsamic.
Irish
Oh,
Italian. And what'd you say you were, Nathan?
Half Irish, half Irish, half Mexican.
That's
Oh.
me.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
Well, we got on the
We were
croutons.
talking about
Okay,
my
so
sexual
crouton.
awakening.
Oh, okay, so you were sexually awakened by
'Cause we got on the
croutons.
salad. We were
For Superman, no, because I was talking about my husband throws me around like a piece of lettuce.
What kind of dressing does he use?
I don't want to answer
I'm
that.
a Thousand Island guy.
Are you?
I am.
Are you?
You know,
I am.
I want to like it.
And you know who makes really good Thousand Island?
Tell us.
Bob's Burgers.
Bob.
Bob's Big Boys Burgers.
Oh, really? Isn't wait?
Bob's Burgers the show.
They put that on
Bob-
all their
I've
stuff
never been
too.
to Bob's Big Boy.
It's quite nice. It's not overhyped like most places.
It's like the
'Cause I
expensive
feel
Denny's,
like White
isn't it?
Castle is overhyped.
I've never been to White Castle, so I can't say to that. But
You're not missing much, but if you ever wind up with the opportunity, stop
it's
in.
not like Golden Corral. Like I thought Golden Corral would be nicer, and then I went and it wasn't.
Haley is very hopped up on croutons right now and enjoying the topic.
This is just a lot for me right now.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah. We're all over the place with the food and the Superman and the sexual.
Superman, that's what we were talking about.
Oh my God, Superman.
That's right. I thought you had sex with a crouton, and that's what we're talking about.
No, I did not. I did not have sex with a Groupon.
A Groupon. So Groupon.com has this really cool Haley discount.
Yeah.
I do not. That is not true.
Enter code Crouton for something spicy. AdamLeague.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sufficiently inebriated at this point.
You are basic white bitched out.
I am soused.
Mm-hmm.
I am
Super soused.
So I
So
apologize for all the words that come out
that's
of my
okay.
mouth.
We put a lot of mileage between 6-year-old having a sex fantasy and now, so I'm happy with how we've
Yeah.
gone.
Long story
There's
short,
those ones.
Oh, we're back to it. Never
all
mind.
of my men in my life have been measured by Clark Kent's Superman.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is a huge pair of boots to fill.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I found a man who hardcore fills them.
So we need to get him some red stripper boots and see how he looks in them.
God, please don't.
No. Wait. Is that a please don't in a good way or a bad way? To be continued. Nathan, if you were to pick anyone to give red stripper boots to, who and why?
We're talking about real life, or
This is not fantasy.
who did I give red boots to? Yeah, no, you know what? That's a good point. Alex Trebek. I think
Alex Trebek. There we go.
deserves-
You know what? Oh,
deserves a good.
and we'd never see them. He's always behind the podium.
Exactly.
He's probably worn them already
Oh my God, how did I finish this?
with your mouth.
Wow.
Same way I'm doing my beer. Nathan, tell us about your sexual awakening with Superman.
Non-existent. Thank you.
Mm.
No, I never had a sexual awakening with a fictional character that I can recall.
Oh, well,
Uh,
I did, but mine's really embarrassing.
Oh my God, I want to hear it,
Yeah,
especially because
you
I
had
threw mine
hers.
out.
Yeah,
So.
I imagined Arrow the Acrobat with a female counterpart,
oh.
and I imagined them as a couple. It was kind of cute and like How to Train Your Dragon-y in my head.
Oh my.
And then I tried to figure out how sex worked, and I used them as my example. Damn, them bats like it dirty.
Wow.
And then
Oh
that's when
my.
I got really into circus music as a kid. But
Ooh.
that's a whole weird aspect of my life we don't need to go into right now.
Oh.
Don't we?
No.
That's why they call him Big Top.
Haley likes innuendos.
What does that mean?
I don't know, pickles?
I love pickles.
All right, so we were talking about croutons from
Pickles.
Krypton. No, that wasn't the point.
Croutons from Krypton.
Mm. Really dense, really
Nathan,
hard.
You should just make your own croutons.
Kryptonian croutons.
Yeah.
They're like green. Just like chunks of green croutons.
They're not made of like kryptonite. It's not like made
course
from
not.
the earth.
I'm saying they're like dyed green or something, or they're like, green bread.
But okay.
You could retire on that.
Could. My crouton fortune.
Nathan, what's your favorite Superman version? What's your favorite version of him that's come out? Be it comics, animation, film?
Hands down, my favorite thing for Superman is All-Star Superman
Yes.
by Frank Morrison and Frank Quietly.
Haley, have you read the All-Star Superman? Oh.
Ooh, it's very good. It's quite good. No, it's because you want to talk about Superman. It's very hard. Everybody always complains it's like hard to write Superman because he's perfect. His power is, are endless, and the only thing he's really, weak against are magic and kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only so many stories you can tell. It says a lot about a character where, like, one of his biggest selling issues or points in his career is when they killed him. It was when Doomsday
Right.
showed up and
Oh,
beat his
right.
ass to death. So it's hard to really either like reinvent the wheel with Superman or find a way into Superman that somebody hasn't done before, or at least is painting with the same kind of colors but making a picture that you didn't think you'd see. So Grant Morrison, if you know who Grant Morrison is like not your typical comic book writer. He doesn't write your straightforward narrative. He doesn't write your classic superhero story. This guy likes to make you think. This guy likes to he's wild. He's Scottish, so he likes to do whatever he wants.
Yep.
But All-Star Superman is really interesting. It starts with Superman saving this crew from the surface of the sun. They're literally like pulling data from the surface of the sun.
Oh wow.
Weren't they created for this story as well? This
It's a standalone. This is like
Yeah.
it's not it's like it's its own kind of one shot, well, it's 12 issues, but it's like its own standalone story. But he has to rescue this probe or these people that are on the side of the sun, and in the process he gets exposed to so much solar radiation that it gives him cancer.
Oh
it
my God,
overignites
no.
the cells in his body that metabolize solar radiation.
So he in the process, weirdly enough,
Super cancer.
And you want to talk about like how it's hard to write for like a godlike character. In this process, he not only becomes more powerful,
Well, yeah, I would assume.
he becomes smarter.
Oh, wow.
Everything about him is amplified dramatically.
But at the same time, because Grant Morrison has this like very keen way of making things internal on the external, it becomes this sort of like Superman's last days, weeks, whatever, where he's like, I can always save everybody, but what do I do with my last like
Instead of the labors of Hercules, it's
What a
now let's
great
step up to a
question.
whole new world. What are the final labors of Superman?
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what this comes to.
It's a personal odyssey. It's like literally Samson and is it
Atlas.
Hercules? Atlas. They literally like show up.
The two strongest people in biblical and mythological history,
Yeah.
period.
But they're also DC Comics characters because DC has to have everything.
Everything.
But yeah, they show up and they're like, yeah, we saw the future, and apparently, like after Superman dies, before he dies.
Yeah, because isn't Samson in this, like, now he's a time traveler from the
Right.
biblical days, but
Oh,
he's
wow,
from the future as
interesting.
well.
Uh-huh.
It's weird.
It's
It's
Grant
DC.
Morrison. It's Grant Morrison, and Grant Morrison he throws these like really obscure.
But I feel like those are
characters.
really the kind of questions that need to be asked.
Yeah.
He
He writes these like really obscure kind of esoteric like mind stories.
Yep.
That's what this story is like this kind of personal odyssey where he goes on these like, and it's not this like every chapter is a different like event or a hurdle. It's kind of like almost like there's this one issue that's just about his life in Smallville when he was younger, and kind of finding his place in like, do I want to stay in Smallville and like maybe use my powers to just be a very good farmer? Or do I actually go to Metropolis and like, maybe try and be a reporter and see what I can do with my powers? And then these like Supermen from the future show up because again, Grant Morrison is wacky. So these like
one of them being like from Mixed Picklix's.
Yeah, and one's got
So
like
are they,
bandages. There are some really weird out
different
there
iterations
things.
of him, or
Not a lot we've seen, but all attached to something that we've already gotten
Okay.
as well.
And they're also from the future, so it's like this weird version of like future people who are all wearing Superman costumes,
Inspired by and or directly related to, yeah.
Exactly. And so that's when Superman finds out that like essentially he does have this legacy that he has to fulfill and he has to set forth to, follow through on. So there are like many moments throughout this All-Star Superman arc where he's basically achieving all of these feats. Like he at one point he creates like a miniature universe.
Yep.
To basically like run a
like in Rick and Morty.
Yes,
Yeah,
almost entirely like
almost
Rick and Morty.
basically Rick and
Oh,
Morty,
wow.
where he creates this like synthetic like simulation universe where Superman doesn't exist,
Wow.
and he watches it because again he's gotten smarter, so he's like doing these weird things with his time where he's just like literally making life. He's literally made life. There's this really poignant moment where he stops a girl from like killing herself by jumping off.
That was probably one of the biggest Superman moments in history for me.
And it's like it's one page, it's 4 panels,
Mhm.
and it's just this really
I've
beautiful
seen
shot.
that one.
Yeah, everybody's probably seen it, and
it's meme famous now, just on
That's-
its weight alone. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just been shared a lot. Yeah, but that's where it comes from, and that's the book that it comes from. And the story itself is like
It's deep.
it's deep. It's not your typical super. Like it's almost like when there's a fight sequence, it almost like ruins the story. It's just like wait, we were talking about something.
And with every fight sequence is an extensive, like really high quality dialogue
Yeah.
going on at the same time, like between Superman and the Parasite and Superman versus Luthor, who temporarily gains Kryptonian powers.
Right.
And, like this whole thing is essentially Luthor thinks this is his big gambit, and all he does is create the perfect Superman, but for only a short window.
One of my favorite chapters, it's so fun. You want to talk about fucking poetry, is he goes to the Bizarro world,
Oh yeah.
and it's a planet full of Bizarros, and each Bizarro is like slightly different than the last. Like this one doesn't do that right. That one, but there's one who's actually smart. So he's like the most like, he's not Superman per se, but he's just Bizarro, but the Bizarro version of Bizarro, who's just completely like genius and intellectual, and he's just like, I'm the only smart person on a planet full of idiots. Wow. And I just remember reading that like as a middle schooler going, that's fucking genius.
I just imagine him trying to write this chapter of All-Star and just being completely drugged out of his mind, going like, imagine everyone around me being as dumb as I really think they are.
Yeah, that's kind of probably what he was
It's felt like cathartic writing to me.
It's a very personally, and that's the thing is like a lot of people talk about how hard it is to either relate to Superman, or that's I guess what we've always been trying to do is put ourselves in Superman, because you remember that the original Superman couldn't fly. He just was able to leap over tall buildings in a single bound.
Yep.
Right, yeah.
Which, I mean, to me, as a kid, I look at that as, oh, so he evolves too. He gets stronger too. Oh, God, Superman grows.
But really, in reality, it was the culture going, no, let's make him better.
Yeah.
Let's make him stronger. Let's make him the ultimate version of what we want him to be.
It also came down to, like, in the comics and in the radio show, he was always, like, jumping and going whoosh, and there was no explanation. Eventually, they had to, in comics and in animation form and in other formats, it was, he does fly now. They just give him that, because it's easier to do that eventually.
Right, than to just constrict him to leaping tall buildings.
Yeah, plus it's easy to do that, like, shot of him just posing, and that's where it probably came from as well.
Yeah, it's saved on animation.
Yeah,
frames.
Yeah. But there's so many iterations of Superman. So many iterations of Superman's fathers as well. I say fathers plural because you have Jonathan Kent and you have his other father Jor-El.
I don't think they get Jor-El right. I don't think Jor-El needs to be that source of like you need to be better than everybody, because Jor-El was just a scientist who wanted to save his kid from dying with everybody else on the exploding planet. I think Jonathan Kent is the person who's like...
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, Jonathan Kent is the one who's
Kent's the one who
no, you're
inspires
special.
him.
Yeah, you're special. And that's why I hated fucking Man of Steel.
Which is why I avoided talking about Jonathan.
Like, you shouldn't have saved those kids in the bus. You should have let them die. Don't save me from this twister. Fuck off.
Kevin Costner and that tornado is a recent scar in all of our...
I take real issue with the Kevin Costner version of...
Even when they brought him back?
They did?
Yeah, he came back as a hallucination or a ghost.
Was he in Justice League?
No, it was in Man vs. Steel. No, wait.
Man vs. Steel?
It was Justice League. After he came back to life.
That's right. Because I only saw it once, and I never plan to see it again.
I watched it twice. I went back a second time just to find out if I was...
3 levels of this.
Yeah, I know, right?
But, okay, in my defense... I was given the film as a gift, and that was the first time I saw it.
No,
oh wow, okay.
We'll give you even judgment, less than the judgment we weren't going to give you in the first place.
Appreciate it.
But I remember Man of Steel, and there's that scene where he's like, "What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?" And Pa Kent's just like, "Yeah, probably." And I was just like, "No."
Honestly, like I know this is gonna give me a lot of shit, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but I appreciated the Jonathan Kent of the really terrible TV series Smallville, because he was the one who was always like, you're better than this. There was a consistent, I feel like, pushing towards like you're special. The you're called to a higher standard than the rest of us, and like wanting him to consistently, like, obviously, like, maintain the secret, because like God knows what would happen if
he had no idea what that meant. It's just being a father, like, of course you're a special son, and I want you to do what like is going to benefit everybody. But I don't think in his mind was like, you know what you need to do? You need to put on a cape and some boots.
No, definitely not. But I mean, like, he was definitely always like, you need to be using your powers for the good of other people as opposed to self-serving.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
The moment he walked out in that outfit, Jonathan said, "Oh, your mother made that for you, didn't she?"
Maybe you could be a lawyer or a doctor.
You know, you're so smart and you wear the glasses so well.
You know, you could see through people's lungs. You could do that.
Yeah.
You could be a cop.
You imagine the money you'd save the poor on X-ray costs.
Yeah, a human X-ray machine.
God, does he give people cancer when he looks at them?
I mean,
you know what? I've always wondered that.
Does he? I mean, well, that's to say he operates on the same. No, because then that would mean that his eyes operate like an X-ray machine. Yeah,
he doesn't produce the X-rays. He just views through the spectrums.
So that's like saying, like, just looking at a microwave while it's going on affect us.
It does when you open and put your head in.
Yeah. So
I found that out the hard way.
If anything, he's giving himself cancer by looking at you with X-ray vision, but because the sun heals
I mean, like,
him.
or is it on a like, you know, the spectrum of light?
Yeah.
You know, like there are those crabs that can see 14 more colors than we can.
I did not know that.
Maybe it's way simpler than that. Maybe when he was a teenager and going through his
crabs get to see all the extra colors, but not me.
because the crabs get to go all the places we don't typically get to
the
live,
bottom of the fucking ocean where there is no color.
and a lot of pubes.
Okay.
I think maybe to get his like super Kryptonian testosterone under control as a teenager, I think his mom probably gave him like the whole idea like, if you look at women's boobies through their clothes with your X-ray vision, Clark, you're gonna get eyeball cancer.
Oh, his pubescent days, Pa Kent had to build like a metal shed in the back for him to just blow his loads.
Metal shed. I'm
Yeah.
like lead.
A lead line shed.
There's no way in hell that story has been told properly yet.
His prepubescent days.
Yeah.
His exploring himself phase
Oh my.
Yeah.
His sexual awakening.
Yep.
of this young boy. No, thank you.
I mean, come on. Let's stop and think about, like, as a young man, how many times do you think you masturbated between the
Well,
age of
like-
13 and 19 alone?
Oh, I didn't
Superman
pick it
is
up until 15.
He's so good though. Yeah, I agree. He was a late bloomer. in
So
many ways.
maybe at most he was 16, 17 before he started waking. You know for a fact that he was told to go do that in the barn.
Yeah, that's why I said they built a special shed for him.
Yeah.
A special cum shack.
I feel
Oh,
like,
Jesus.
oh no.
Superman's.
Oh,
That's Clark's
no.
cum shack.
Do you think when he took Lois to Kansas for the first time to Smallville, he's like, and here's the cum shack.
No,
With,
it's just
like,
like, what's
bullet
that over there? We don't
holes,
go there.
like, why is this
He
filled with
immediately
bullet
burns
holes?
down with vision.
Yeah.
Not-
Like, no, we don't go back there.
Oh no. I feel like he was more refined than that. I mean, like, this is America's
He went
Boy
on the
Scout.
cornfield
Right.
and did it
Like a gentleman.
like a gentleman. Country boys make do.
He just took down half the crops for the week
Yeah.
with one shot.
I doubt that.
Some poor person driving by on the freeway, just their truckload just randomly gets a hole blown through it. Dangerous location, that Smallville, during those years.
Yeah.
Never know when you're gonna get hit by stray fire.
My question on that, to that effect, is how many roof repairs did Jonathan Kent have to make? How many roof repairs had to have happened
What does this keep
before they
happening?
realized that, or because let's be honest, this is Clark Kent, this is Superman we're talking about. Did he just like straight down, like walk down the stairs with shame, like, Mom, Dad?
Came through the ceiling.
He didn't
again.
walk. He floated down the stairs.
Well, I mean, like, how? At what point did he receive his powers all at once, or
You
did
know,
he receive them one by one? And
Because of the powers, he probably didn't at least struggle through puberty. He probably was so used to, Mom, a new thing's happening, so much that he communicated.
Oh,
with
so
Mom.
yeah, this just coming all the time is just part of my Kryptonian DNA. Okay.
You wouldn't
like,
know.
because I'm a girl. I don't actually know what it's like to be a prepubescent boy. But is that really the case?
It can
Where
be.
you're just like
It can be. Yeah.
masturbating compulsively.
I
and,
mean,
like,
some of that. Some people.
Most of
don't
it's
end,
compulsive.
That period doesn't end. For
Most
some
of it's
people.
compulsive. A lot of it's non-compulsive. Sometimes you're just sitting
So,
on
I
a bus
mean,
and going, "Don't
like,
look
I
at me."
It
feel
also
like we
depends
could
what you have
probably
access
assume
to.
that he's
Yes.
one of the more conservative boys in that.
Sure.
Because honestly, like,
Sure. Yeah. He was going
Superman
down.
didn't result in being like a super perv.
Of course not. Of course not. He was not repressed in
Excuse
any
me,
sense.
you
He
have
was
no
going
idea
down
why Lois is still with him.
to the sock hops with Lana Lang.
Yeah.
Getting the fucking makeout point handies completely safe and not explosive at all. And
Oh yeah, he probably had to fake it with her.
yeah.
He's like spitting on the ceiling.
yeah. Like, look over there.
Oh.
That's it.
That was
I mean,
great.
he's got super speed. He could probably pull it off. I feel like he has like custard in one hand and like with the super speed, you know.
A little packet of mayonnaise. Just
That's what I'm saying. Like you
Oh.
just fake it
So-
until
So basically, she goes onto her second boyfriend, swallows for the first time, and goes, "Oh, what the fuck is wrong with him?"
It's not like Hellman's at all.
grandma's chicken salad.
Ooh yeah. Nathan's got the look of curiosity and don't tell me at the same
Pure
time.
disgust. Pure disgust.
What's wrong with chicken salad?
It's neither salad nor chicken.
I apologize.
So we still got a little bit of time left to play with the Superman topic, and we talked a lot about his pubescent potential days. We talked a lot about how he touched Haley. I mean, touched Haley's life.
Yes.
And then we talked a lot about croutons.
Yeah.
one other very important topic I want to talk about is Superman and the mullet. Were you a fan or a anti-mullet person?
The 90s, the death of Superman era mullet. Oh, no, that was Return, wasn't it?
That was Return of Superman.
Comes back with the mullet.
The mullet should never have happened.
The reign of the Superman era. It's a product of its time.
I feel because they were considering doing the Superman movie and Tim Burton's movie had already been out.
You think that was it?
I think that they so wanted Nick Cage, who was... Actually, hang on. When did...
No, the movie was after that. The movie was like 98, 97.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Or the planned movie, the Superman Lives.
Oh, man. Well, perhaps they really wanted Nick Cage. I don't know.
No,
That's the only excuse I can give them to, like, why they would want that mullet.
I think what it was...
My whole thing, I just don't understand that, because he is clean cut.
Mind you...
He is timeless.
Con Air.
This was the storyline, though, is Superman had just died, just been killed.
Happens to us all.
The period afterwards was called Reign of the Superman. Now, you had all of these basically replacement phony Supermen trying to fill the void. You had Steel, you had Cyborg Superman, you had Superboy, you had Supergirl. So you had fucking Eradicator, the blue suit Superman.
And at the time in the comics, they did a very hush hush who's who.
Right, like who's good, who's bad, who's legit.
Are any of them really the Superman or any of them fake?
Right, we don't know. And so here comes Mullet Superman, and Mullet Superman's like, no, I'm the one true Superman.
And he doesn't have any powers. He's
people are like,
wearing black, wielding guns.
Yeah.
So you think it was a misdirect?
Not so much a misdirect, but that's an artistic choice of like, how do we make this guy look different enough to be like that? This is our hero. He's just been away for so long that he grew his hair out.
Okay,
he also had a beard too.
He had stubble. They had like the 90s stubble.
But I don't know why they wouldn't have pulled the whole concept of like, like in Man of Steel when he's like a fisherman and he's got like the full beard and the scraggly hair. Like it would have been more like a mountain man. Superman rather than because I feel like mullets still require barbers and like it's still a fashion choice that I absolutely abhor.
Does a mullet really need a specialist? Do you really need someone who to like you know what?
A mirror and a pair of scissors.
You need a mirror and a pair of Crayola scissors.
Safety scissors.
I feel like Superman is a little too clean cut and all American for something that grotesque.
Do you think Clark manscapes?
Oh yeah.
I imagine it's a little difficult for him. You know what? It sounds like you've imagined this. Does he manscape a lot, or does he just get like the bare minimums?
I feel like he does the bare minimum because I mean, like he's not. I don't feel like he's metropolitan.
They've shown him many times drawn without his shirt, and he's quite hairy.
He's a hairy man. He's got hairy arms, a hairy chest,
hairy-chested man. I've seen panels where he like shaves literally by lasering a mirror to his face.
Yeah, that sounds
the only possible.
Oh God! So he's got like a little hand junk mirror for the shower, then.
Probably.
Wow.
Probably.
Do you think his wife just looks back and you're like, yeah, shave that shit. Yeah, burn it away.
I mean,
Lois likes it smooth.
I feel like she's got a lot of needs she demands to be met, and that he doesn't, because he's Superman, he doesn't need to work that hard to keep up.
She's ball safe.
I imagine she's a pain in the ass for anyone else.
I thought you said she's ball safe. I'm like, yeah, I bet she is. Bossy, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, she's like, bossy.
Ball safe.
I don't think she's that ball safe. I think that if you're not
shaving,
I feel like if anyone could take it, it's Superman.
I think that she's so Lois Lane that halfway through the act, she's like, you know what? I'm gonna punch you in the left nut.
See if you feel it.
And it probably wouldn't do anything.
Just for the sake of spicing things up. Too.
And him being so kind-hearted, he just giggles halfway through, rolls over, and go, "Oh, honey, why do you always do that?" And then just plows her.
Yeah. Because Superman needs a release. After a long day.
And what better than a Pulitzer Prize winning badass Lois Lane who will essentially boss him around, put the leather thing on and say, no, swallow your kryptonite pills and do what I say.
Exactly.
Wait, what's their safe word? What is Lois and Clark's safe word?
Mixic.
Yes. Oh my God. That's the perfect safe word.
Mr.
What?
I'm too drunk, or
you know what? Honestly, I'm going to use the power.
Mizik. The imp from the fifth dimension, who he has to make him say his name backwards for him to go back to his home dimension. Mixic. It's a bunch of constants.
don't know what's happening,
No,
but
this is not working out.
You're like,
it
is he
sounds
having a
like
stroke?
Nate is having a stroke.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like he's having a stroke. Trust me. But at the same time, he's not, because I can't even get Google to find the
to
guy.
figure it out.
I can't spell his name so bad.
Mr.
I mean, like, do you
just
feel
Superman
like it would
and then
be
Mr.
that?
M.
Because here's the thing. Here's what we're operating under. Is it the universe where Lois knows that Clark is Superman, or is this the universe where she does not? Because I feel like if
I'm
it's
pretty
just-
sure at this point, across the board, I
She
think
knows?
that every single variant now knows.
Okay.
All
even-
roads lead to that.
Even in the main comics now, like, they're married and have a kid now. So
Yeah,
No,
it's
for
kind
sure,
of
for sure.
that Sam and Diane thing where it's just like they're gonna get together and like they're gonna either make it interesting or they're not.
all right, I'm
For
about
sure.
to attempt this without a cheat. Its spelling is Mr. MXYZPTLK.
Mitzaplik.
Mixix. Fuck.
Mixixelplik.
That guy.
Smizzleplik.
Yep, I have no
I don't
idea how to
wanna
pronounce
try.
this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try.
Yeah, don't do it. It's gonna hurt your head.
I
Wait,
mean, like,
no.
or could it be like a Portlandia throwback
Oh
where
my
it's
god,
like their safe word is like cacao?
I found it. It's broken down.
Oh?
Mix yes pit el lick.
Mizyetspitalik.
Mix
Mix?
yes
Mix, yes.
pit
Mixyetspik.
el
Oh.
ick.
Mitzitspikalik.
Mitz yex pitalik.
Mixyetspikalik.
Mix yet pitalik. Yeah, I'm not gonna remember that in 5 minutes.
No, it's impossible. And some fucking writer created
and that's
that.
definitely
Some
not their
fucking
safe
writer
word.
created that on a lot of acid.
Well, they wrote it down. I'm like, nobody's ever gonna fucking read this out loud. Well, this isn't gonna be in a movie.
So is this safe to say that this would not be their safe word?
I guess not.
No, I think it's his safe word.
It's his safe.
I think it's
word.
his safe word
Because
because
he has no limits.
What is her safe word? I mean, like, they have to be like one
Smallville.
standard. Shit.
That's fair.
Smallville. Not only because it's a word that is immediately recognizable, because it also demasculates him to some extent, and
Yeah.
that gives her the biggest
Why
lady
would that
boner.
demasculate him? That was like his upbringing.
Because to her, the way she uses that, like she used.
Oh, all right, all
yeah.
right.
She likes to call him farm boy. She likes to call him small,
I think
small
that's.
town.
I honestly think that, like, in her context, his name is Farm Boy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that she says a lot of times, "Fuck me harder, farm boy."
or I mean, like, where you throw it back to like Princess Bride, where she's like, "Farm Boy, give me that like,
Dick.
Yeah.
Give me that dick. Give me that dick. Break me off a piece of that fucking cock.
So let me ask Haley before we start round this up. Favorite version of Superman?
Oh man. I mean, see, for me,
Not
like,
the one in your dream.
I hope not. You were 6.
I understand.
Or at least not that dream. Not that dream. The any dream.
See, like,
past.
what's tough for me is I didn't grow up on the comics. Here's my thing.
So you
is-
really didn't need to be an aggressive comic book fan to be a Superman fan. growing
Oh,
up.
absolutely not. I mean, like, I do collect the comics, but I didn't grow up reading them.
Mhm.
And I do love the comics. But I that's not where I fell in love with Superman.
Sure, yeah.
Once again, like, growing up, like, my Superman was like Dean Cain from like Lois and Clark. I grew up a lot during the, like I mentioned before, it was a terrible, terrible show, but like I really appreciate Tom Welling's iteration of Clark Kent with the like inherently good and like constantly working towards bettering himself. I think that the Christopher Reeve's version was incredible. But honestly, I appreciate how close to, at least the comics that I read, the Man of Steel comics came, the Man of Steel movie came to, like, close to the comics. Whereas, like, Henry Cavill was, I feel like, the embodiment of what Superman was supposed to be in the comics, as well as the Clark Kent that I had, like, grown to love. And, like, that conflict of wanting to be there for people but also wanting to hide his secret, and I think I lost my train of thought because I'm drunk.
Man of Steel is one of those movies where I wanted to love it because there's so much in it that I loved, unlike the rest of the DC Marvel.
This is a simpler time
yeah.
then.
It was fun to me because you got a raw young Superman on film that is flawed. he's not this amazing superhero. He's not this I'm Superman already.
Wholeheartedly agree.
And the whole like he had to kill Zod thing, at what point does Superman ever decide I'm never going to kill? It's not that he was born with this. Perhaps snapping Zod's neck is going to be the thing. They built a movie that felt like this is why it's Man of Steel, because it's not Superman yet. This is a man wearing an S on his chest with the powers of Superman who hasn't made his decision who he was. That's how I was hoping that was going to play off. I was okay with Man of Steel existing. I thought Henry Cavill could have brought us a great Superman potentially, but we never got Superman until clips of Justice League, which was a horrendous film in general, in my opinion. But horrendous in the sense of like it didn't tie anything together.
Honestly, like my favorite part was when Superman and Wonder Woman were like doming each other.
I mean, that's typically my favorite with those two on screen in general. Throw in some Batfleck in there, just kind of like, why not me too? And I'd be happy.
I could not stand Ben Affleck's iteration of Batman, but that is neither here nor there.
Yeah, we'll save Batfleck for another episode.
But yeah, no, I'm like one of the things that I liked about Man of Steel was I appreciated that they were very clear about like the fact that he went into reporting was a way for him to keep his ear on the ground, like. And that was what was in the comics and in the early radio show is he was attempting to be able to like keep 1 foot ahead of the game while still maintaining some semblance of a normal life.
Yep.
Because that's the thing. He doesn't need a normal life. He can just be Superman 24 hours a day if he really wanted to.
Does he?
Right.
Doesn't need to sleep.
Doesn't need to eat.
Yeah.
He can just literally orbit the Earth like a fucking satellite.
He doesn't need oxygen.
God.
No, not really.
Imagine a
What's
boring day as
fantastic.
Superman. Imagine a boring day as, nothing's happening here today. Float up, go over a zip code.
Yeah.
Over a zip code, over a continent.
Yeah.
He can hear that far.
I mean, it's
no.
great.
And I think that's what was important about his growing up in Smallville. Like, that whole concept of, like, no, you need to live a regular human life and have something that is of your own on top of being someone greater and better than all of us.
Aside from all the time travel, I like to think that young Clark never saw any of the world. I like to think that him getting out as Superman was him exploring the world for the first time. Well, not as Superman, but him getting out as an adult was him exploring for the first time. And that really would help define him as a character and embrace the world the way he does. He really does want to, like, oh, I love your culture. Oh, I love your country. Oh, I love your food. Oh, I love your people. Oh, I love your dress. Oh, I love your flag. He doesn't have, like, the ability to call people out on reasons he hates them until they cross that line.
Kansas and not Alabama.
Oh, yes. Imagine that one. Now, you know what? That's funny you say that because there's a movie coming out. I forgot the name of it already.
Is that Brightburn one?
Brightburn, yes.
It's like the kid turns out to be evil.
I have no idea why this excites me as much as it does, but it's like if Superman landed on Earth and grew up under the wrong family or the wrong premise, and he grows up to be like in his early...
A member of the Ku Klux Klan?
He just decides, fuck it, I got these powers. I'm going to murder bitches.
There's a great alternate, DC has this run of titles called Elseworlds, which is like the alternate universe one. And there's one called Superman Red Sun, where if instead of landing in America 1930, whatever, 1920, he lands in Soviet Russia.
Oh, shit.
And becomes basically Stalin's, like, symbol
right-hand
power.
Man.
And they conquer the world as communist Russia is Superman's, like, the Red Sun.
But he's not evil.
Right.
He's not evil. He's knowing what he's doing is just like, I'm just representing my government that knows...
Mother Russia.
Yeah, that knows what it's doing, that's doing right.
Oh,
and then, like,
snap.
Batman is this, like, contingent, like, radical terrorist trying to bring him down. Like, Green Lantern is this, like, dead fighter pilot from outer space. It's so cool.
It's one of my favorite stories of all time because it takes the concept of the quote unquote dark world or alternate version, and it doesn't do the evil goatee like, haha, I'm the polar opposite. It's no, I'm giving just a polar shift in your beliefs in what you stand for. The character was still through and through.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if Superman? Yeah, what if Superman was a Nazi?
Even the way he responded to things was the same way.
I feel like such an interesting
Like, where does
Have
Superman
to
get his?
follow.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, where does Superman get his moral roots from? Where does he get his?
And that's
Center.
going us way back to
Croutons?
Jonathan Kent.
Mhm.
Oh, Jonathan.
And Jonathan and Martha Kent, how
Right.
important their influence was. And I feel like the upbringing of Clark and his what makes him the quote unquote Boy Scout.
Yeah. That's why he's like the antithesis of Batman, who grew up without parents, whereas
Right.
Superman grew up with these very loving parents who basically shaped him into Superman.
Martha.
Yeah, two very different Marthas.
How do you
Can you prove that, actually? Can you prove that?
A tale of two Marthas? Oh, easily. Yeah.
Okay.
One's rich, one's not.
Well, I mean, because
One's
perhaps
in Kansas, one's in Gotham City.
perhaps one dies, quote unquote, and her rich husband's gone, and she moves off to go live with this farmer guy, and I don't know.
Is it the same Martha?
Maybe she got hit in
Oh,
the
so
head.
you're saying she dies, goes into witness relocation.
Maybe she has amnesia or something like that. And
She gets shot in the head, wakes up in a coma.
Yeah.
Doesn't know who she is. Nobody knows. Nobody recognizes.
After a-
But
after
she
a
just,
long
like,
bout of-
gravitates toward the name Martha.
Yeah,
a,
she's
a
like,
long
that
bout
sounds
of
right.
hospital bills. She winds up out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and this.
No. You know what it
Marries
is?
Jonathan.
It's like the movie Overboard with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell.
Oh my god!
Fucking Jonathan Kent shows up in Gotham City Hospital, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my wife."
You know what's the problem is? DC's eventually going to run out of something to write again one summer, and this is going to be the big story that
It's
they
their
do.
Elseworlds, like their new relaunch.
No, not even Elseworlds. Like this is they're probably going to be canon. Like now,
their new 52.
since
thing,
New
yeah.
52 has been like done, they're trying to make New
for
50.
years.
Yeah, they're going to be trying to like change
will
things.
that
up again.
make Batman and
Step
Superman
brother.
brothers?
Step brothers? Yeah,
That would be a twist, wouldn't it?
you
Would
know,
it be step brothers or half brothers?
half brothers. Yeah,
Half brothers. Yeah.
I mean, legally, are they allowed to have gay sex?
I mean, there's no genetic.
Do you ship
Component?
Superbat?
I do not.
Yeah, there's no repercussions of an abhorrent child monstrosity.
I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
I kind of like to just the curiosity wants to see if like that's what Brightburn was supposed to be.
Okay.
Interesting.
I think more so the movie is presented as like, okay, here's this boy.
I realize that you have a Superman backpack.
Yeah, that's
Right
my
there
little
on the
like
floor.
notepad.
I did not know that you had that.
So last and final question on this topic before we start wrapping this up. In Smallville, do you think they had an Olive Garden to try the croutons you guys were talking about?
You know what?
Yeah.
I don't think
They
that
had an
Smallville
IHOP.
is big enough. I feel like maybe in like
Well, what's the-
Granville.
I was gonna say, what's the nearest like Kansas City or no Kansas City, Kansas? No,
Metropolis.
no. See, that's the thing. What is Metropolis in relationship to Kansas City? Because or to Kansas.
Supposedly, and
Smallville,
I could be very wrong on this, but so Metropolis is near to Manhattan, as close to as
So it's
like
more like
Philly
New York?
is, and Kansas, Smallville is like outskirts, bumfuck, like furthest away from big society, Kansas. I just don't know which direction we're in.
And Metropolis is not in Kansas.
No,
So
Metropolis
it's
is
in like New York.
yeah, Metropolis is East Coast city.
Because it was always like Gotham was either Detroit
Yep.
or Trenton, New Jersey, or something.
Yep.
Um,
And now apparently all those all of our cities that exist now still exist in the DC universe, and these cities. That's the one
yeah,
thing
on
growing
top
up I
of
was
Metropolis. And
Yeah.
Gotham.
So I feel like Smallville is way too small to have had an
I know,
Olive
I was
Garden,
gonna- I
but I
was
feel like
gonna say,
maybe Granville or
modern time.
They,
you get-
they had an IHOP, and
Get
if that's like the maximum they got, they probably had an IHOP and a Walmart and
If
a
they had
Taco
a
Bell.
Walmart,
Yeah.
then they had an Olive Garden.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what happens. Is like you get these real like basic chains.
Well, you
like,
start with Walmart.
And if there are any listeners, from these flyover states that we're talking about, I'm sure it's great living out there.
Yeah, write in. Let us know how much you hate us or if we're right.
Yeah, and then come try Buffalo Wild Wings and In-N-Out and
Oh my God, In-N-Out sounds so good right now.
It's Pie Day.
It is Pie Day.
Let's go get some pie.
let's go get In-N-Out on Pie Day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, anyone last chance to plug? Nathan, you've got a lot going on in your life, but you're also a mystery of sorts. Anything you want to plug?
I don't really have anything to plug other than I'm just excited. I'm going to go to New Orleans at the end of the month to go be in Jay and Silent Bob a reboot.
You got to go to Dookie
I'm
Chase.
sorry, what?
Yeah, I got a text from Kevin the other day saying, "Hey, you want to be in this movie? Can you get down to New Orleans?" And I was like, "Yes," and I guess, yeah. He's filming Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which is like it's a reboot of.
It is a reboot. God. It's not just called reboot and playing on the topic reboot.
I guess not necessarily. It's not like
So what will
not
you
like
be
Clerks
playing?
is going to get remade or something,
right?
But I'm sorry. What did you say?
What will you be playing?
It's an extra. It's like an extra capacity, like a featured extra or something. But there's going to be like a convention scene. Like he's basically like recreated Comic-Con, and so he needs a lot of bodies for that. And he's basically like reached out to all of his friends and all of his people, and like if you get a text from Kevin Smith yourself saying, "Hey, you want to be in my movie?" That wasn't something I was going to be like, maybe next one.
Yeah, I'm not having a good Tuesday. Try next week.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, I would love to go
Why
down.
is his life so much cooler than ours?
Yeah, excuse me.
I'm sorry, why is his life so much cooler than mine?
Excuse you. You're married to Clark Kent.
Yeah.
I am married to Clark
You
Kent.
get tossed around like lettuce and have croutons.
I do get tossed.
That salad
I do have a pretty badass life.
Like a Kryptonian.
Oh, yeah.
Kryptonian
I'm like
salads.
With 1,000 islands.
98% convinced that my husband is actually Kryptonian.
You know what? I can't reject that theory. Nathan, enjoy New Orleans. Enjoy Kevin. And go to
please
Dookie
give
Chase.
Kevin our love.
I will.
Haley, any since you're a guest this time, any shout outs? Anything you got going on?
I feel like I shouted out my husband a lot. So I shouted out
What about
to my
your
husband.
other husband? Oh wait, no, he's secret, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
It's
like,
really
wait, I
just
thought
it's
you
for
were
tax
my other
purposes.
husband. You're my work husband.
Yeah, that's true. I'm the other man in your life. Sorry, Nathan.
No, I don't really have a whole lot to shout out. My life is pretty
Croutons. Talk to us about croutons for
regular and
10 seconds
private.
again.
Croutons, Olive Garden salad dressing, Olive Garden salad is
They do brand
What's
salad
up?
dressing.
They
and-
do brand salad. It's fantastic.
And
If
and
you
the
go to
croutons.
Olive Garden, I highly recommend the chicken and gnocchi soup.
Oh yeah.
That is what is up.
This week's episode clearly not endorsed by, but we are definitely giving a shout out for all things Olive Garden, which is exactly what I thought of when I wanted to talk about Superman.
Experience all you can eat stuffed pastas now for a limited time only at Olive Garden.
Yep, because
Olive Garden, the unofficial sponsor of Superman.
if Clark Kent couldn't grow up and eat that, eat as much as you can now.
Because when you're here, you're Kryptonian.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're here, you're an olive.
Well, guys, thank you for joining me. And all of you listening who have made it through all of this, thank you for joining us as well. As always, I'm Christian, and may the awesomeness be with you.